So who wants to start with how you doing? How's your animal doing? And also try to keep in mind how it was, 7 weeks ago, how you started, if you do remember that. Homework for this week is to take a look at your most recent video, your best video, and then compare it with your baseline video so that you can really get a feeling of how much you have accomplished. You want to start, Rachel?
Sure. Last week we had shows that kept us really busy. So unfortunately, this week we had rain all week. And so I think we've only worked twice in the last 2 weeks. I had to work up to expanding my rectangle quite a bit because it couldn't get any faster movement with the smaller. So I added one set of cones and that still wasn't enough. So then I added another set of cones to try to like really expand it and help him to still go around all of them, which he's doing good. He's doing good with that. But I did initially try putting the treats further up. Have to really watch Bo, because the thing that I have really struggled with him is that when he does start to get that intensity, he'll take my hand off. So
okay, well, we'll go into that after everybody has done like a check-in round. That's a good point.
Yeah, but he, like, whenever it sort of, I guess, made him feel like that he had to sort of chase the feed because I was putting it ahead of him, and it started like making it to where he would hurry over there and like almost take my hand off before I would even move it.
We'll go into that, okay? We'll do like first check-in, like how did it go this week?
Yeah.
What did your results? Well, you struggle a little bit with giving the food at the next cone, so we'll talk about that. So you worked twice, but with positive reinforcement, they don't really forget. So I think, and it's also, I have noticed that not working on a certain exercise for a few days will really help latent learning, let it sink in. And often you get better results than if you would have kept going like 7 days a week, even if it's 5 minutes.
I actually did
find
think that too. Yeah, he honestly seemed to do really good, even though we didn't work on it a ton.
Yeah. So yeah, that's good. Anyone else?
Yeah, me. Oh, sorry.
Bless you.
Wait a minute. Hang on, I'll be with you in a sec. Right, okay, I can speak. Yeah, well, I'm Kika. I've stopped running. I think I've stopped trotting beside her. And she did 3/4 of a way round trotting. But she makes the I can't. I'm a bit like when Sarah mentioned last week that having to go from the middle when they click at the cone and then race to feed. I find that's my big problem still, because she goes quite far, and when she's walking, she goes quite fast around. So I'm kind of trying to catch up with her. And by the time I've done that, she's gone on to the next. She sort of keeps going. So
yeah, did you see the recording?
Yes.
For last week? Yeah, because so you have to kind of like, if you are a little bit in the middle, that will give you an advantage. And then you can click for be like on the long side, somewhere like even like approaching the first cone on the short side, and then you skip the whole corner, and then your animal has to just make a longer route, which makes you be the first one being there, like buffet's ready, here's your treat. And then you don't get like, if they know what to expect, where to expect it, that also prevents frustration. But yeah, it is a little bit of, you have to balance everything. We'll
Well,
get to that.
I've stopped clicking at every cone now.
Yeah, you don't, no, that's not possible to click at every cone at this point. You are also supposed to fade out the clicks. So not at every cone, that's where we start. And then just intermittent. Otherwise,
It's the
we are
same.
running like crazy, which is the thing that I wanted to avoid.
It's all right for us, overweight, running, but you know, I think I agree.
Okay.
So that's us.
Yeah. Sarah, how did you go
Yeah,
this
it
week?
was I you know I kind of mentioned before we started recording, I started a new job, so that kind of took up a lot. And then we got our hay for the year delivered on one night. And so I only got to practice like once or twice this week, and it was okay. I felt like so they also got a new pasture mate, and there've been like some just random, like a lot of stuff going on. There's also like a new horse in the other pasture near that. So there's kind of a lot that's been going on. And I just feel like when I was practice with him, he just kept seeming like he was having a little bit of frustration, but I don't know if he was just a little overwhelmed from like everything and like all the different changes and all the stuff going on. I don't know if he was just feeling a little bit overwhelmed in general, but I felt like he was just having a little bit of frustration. So it wasn't too bad. And I feel like he definitely gets more frustration going the way he prefers less. Like he likes going clockwise. He doesn't like going counterclockwise as much. But yeah, there just been like a lot of stuff going on, and like I said, new horse and stuff. So I don't know if that was partly why he was just feeling maybe a little overwhelmed or something. But it was fine. Like he still really wanted to come and play. I just feel like he was a little bit a little not as relaxed as I wanted him to be, but yeah.
I think, well, first of all, horses also pick up on our energy. So if we are like busy in our head, or if we are tired, or mentally or physically, they pick up on that. But like having a new pasture mate is a huge impact, because they have to just keep checking in with the other horses. Yeah, it's new, so that's a context shift. Something shifted in the context, in the environment. It's a big change.
And there's
Also,
a
it's
new person there, the new owner, so he gets nervous around new people. So
yeah. So that all influences, like the whole herd dynamic changed for your horses. So it's normal that that you get like less quality every time you have a context shift. Then the quality of the behavior goes down the moment your horse gets used to the new context, and you do that over and over. And I talked about that in past weeks also. Every time something changes, you will learn to generalize. Your horse will generalize that behavior. Okay, trot still means trot, no matter if there's one new horse or no new horse or 5 new horses. And that's what's training all about, that you teach them to pay attention to what doesn't change, your cues, the information you are giving about the behavior you are expecting, and that the behavior that will be most likely be reinforced. And yeah, and like what you said, for counterclockwise, if that's harder, lower your expectations. It's only temporary. And I wanted to talk about that today. And that's also for Rachel. So if we expect new things, if we change the setup, the context, then we lower our criteria temporarily in order to give the clarity the horse needs. I bet Sarah will be back in a minute. So do we have the questions that I want to answer for Rachel is to help you with keeping Bo's frustration under threshold while enticing him to offer more movement or faster movement. Yeah, for Patricia, we can go over like what cone you need to be clicking at and then being there already. And then for Sarah, yeah, and I will talk about that, how to like split it up into smaller steps for counterclockwise if that's harder, and also what to expect. So first I would like to share my screen a little bit because we talked about behaviors. Let's see if I can make this a little bit bigger. So in phase 1, you have like 0 quality of behaviors, criteria 1, criteria 2, criteria 3. It doesn't matter what you put in there. It's basically behavior 1, behavior 2, and behavior 3, but it could also be criteria. So I put criteria there. It could be like light green is walk, purple is trot, and dark green is canter. But it can also be like staying on track or going around the cone. It doesn't really matter, but let's see. Like, so in the beginning, like the desired quality is like the line here, the gray line here. You focus on one criteria, one behavior, for instance, walk around the cones. You get that behavior. We all got that behavior in the course, so we can say like, okay, yeah, we are almost meeting this desired quality. And then you're focusing on trot. So it's normal to expect that the walk will, the quality will go down, or the frequency will go down. If you click consistently for trot, your horse will only want to trot, because the trot is what leads to the click and the treat. So it's normal that your other behavior or criteria will temporarily go down a little bit, because now your horse is fixed on the purple behavior. And then you train the third behavior or criteria. The second will go down a little bit, because your horse is only focused on the new criteria. They don't go away entirely, but it's more like then you go start with number 1 a little bit, and that can be in each session or per session, depending on how you're training. So then the dark green goes a little bit down, or the frequency or the quality, because you're now focused on 1 again, and then on 2, and then basically at the end you get all the criteria in the quality that you want. So if clockwise doesn't go that well, you focus on clockwise. It could counterclockwise. It could be that clockwise temporarily also goes down. I don't think so. Like, based on what I have experienced training multiple horses myself, is that they have like a physical preference, and depending what that reason is, it will be easier to go 1 round, but you can just make sure that the quality of going clockwise, counterclockwise is the same thing. So this is really important to realize that when we're focusing on trot, until it is on cue, the walk will probably not be offered. Or if you say walk, that your horse thinks, but I get clicked for trot, so let's trot and see. So if that happens, we have to be very consistent with our cues. If we didn't cue it, we can reinforce it or not. That depend on where you are in your training, because we don't want to ask our horse for walk on, and then he trots, and then we reinforce that, because that will lead to frustration in the trainer. Do you feed your horse beet pulp? Yes. We'll get to that. it's a good question. Um, Oh, yeah. So the criteria. So if we focus on a new criteria or a new behavior in the at liberty rectangle, we have to expect that the other ones temporarily go down. It feels that the quality or the frequency of that behavior of it is going down because it's in comparison with the new behavior. But in general, it stays up, it goes down, but it doesn't go down to zero. So that's always good to realize. So for keeping the frustration under threshold, Rachel, have you had time to watch the recording of last week?
No, I did not watch the recording of last week.
Oh, okay. When you do that, you will get also some answers, but I will
Okay.
explain again what how you can start, because you have to start go back a little bit, create that clarity for Bo, and then let me see, make it orange. Create that clarity so that he doesn't get frustrated, and then you can feed at the next cone. So let's see. So here are our cones. So in the beginning, let's see, make new shape. Okay. So for Bo, for instance, I would say when he's here, almost at the cone, you click here and then you feed here. And you do that with this cone too. He's almost at the cone. Before he reaches the cone, you click here and you feed there. You can step outside the cone so that your horse is not looking to the inside, because then we're training him to skip cones and come to the inside. And then you do that, you click here, you feed there. And you do that consistently until he understands that he is fed at the cone. Then in the next phase would be, let's see if I can, I have no idea how this works well, so maybe I can just stop and make a new whiteboard. So that's phase one, and like, even if it's like 2 feet away from where you click and where you feed, you are presenting the idea that the feed is not presented to his lips, but he has to do 1 more step or maybe 2 more steps, and then you create a distance between the click, the time you clicked, and then where you feed. And if you use the cones as a visual, then your horse will start anticipate on that. Let me see another whiteboard. Where are my shapes? Here. So when you have started that, then you can separate the click and the treat even more. So then I would, for instance, click here and still feed there. You can click when Bo is here and feed there. And then in the next phase, but it also depends on, you might not be able to do that at every cone just yet, because otherwise you cannot really go back to the middle, but it's also temporarily, just to teach Bo where to expect the treat. If you present the treat near the cone, he will realize that he needs to be at the cone. So every time you put the click a little bit more, if he's going that way, a little bit sooner. So you click here and you make sure that you can go from the middle to feed here. And so you just do that step by step and take that apart. What will happen is that you teach your horse, okay, you click for the behavior, movement, and then you get a treat at the cone. Now, when your horse starts to trot, we get into the struggle that Patricia mentioned, that we cannot be in time to present the treat. So let's take another color, like purple. So what we have to do now, we have to realize that when we are in the middle, that we click somewhere that the horse, for instance, we have to make sure that the horse goes here, there, and that we arrive faster there, so that we are already ready. And like, if he bites your hand off, you could also put, for instance, 4 little buckets near each cone, and you toss it in the bucket until he realizes, okay, I know exactly where the treat will be at the next cone. So you don't start clicking at one cone and feeding at another, because the cones are probably too far apart and you create a lot of frustration. But you slowly take the click and the physical place where you will be presenting the treat apart by starting like click here, feed there, 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 like slowly. So that's how you can keep the frustration under threshold. And it's if there are other ways to create a trot, that's fine too. You can also use your cue. It's a different setup, so maybe Bo already knows the cue, but then you have to separate the cue, your verbal cue or your pointing, your body language cue, from you walking. And the way you do that is make sure that the moment that you cue your horse, that you're standing still, that you are cueing for behavior while you're standing still, and also the moment that you're clicking, if you stand still, that helps understand the horse that he needs to keep going. So even if you have to walk at first to help him understand, I want you to trot, because you walking is part of the trot, and this is not especially for Rachel, but this for in general. Make sure that if you kind of point around the cones and click for movement while we are not moving, because horses will pick their own cues, because they will think like, what is giving me the most information, most reliable information about me getting reinforced for this behavior. And if that's like, if my trainer moves, I have to move, that's like the best bet. We still have to train that in walk first. Like, okay, my trainer is not moving, but if I'm moving without my trainer, I still get reinforced. So that's why we practice that in walk. And then we, like by giving the horse clarity that the treat will be offered at a different place, then they will start to anticipate. If they get frustrated, a little bit of frustration at first is not necessarily bad, but we have to keep them under threshold, because if they get so frustrated, like, where's my treat, bah, 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 biting your hand off, that's too much. But like even a little bit can increase learning. And it also gives us information about like that we have to make sure that we raise our criteria slowly, so that the horse almost doesn't notice that we are raising the criteria. That's another thing that we can pay attention, what can we do, and keep in mind what gives my horse clarity. So if you feed at every cone, then you also separate, like the treat is not coming from your hand at this point, but your treat will be on the ground in a feeding pen, or so we just have to be creative about what will work for our horse. If this is too much, what we can also do is like temporarily add more cones, so that we give more clarity, but then keep in mind, how can we fade out these extra cones as soon as possible? And one of the things that I've noticed, and we all do this, we don't have to stay within that invisible track that we have, like, oh, from cone to cone. If we are feeding, we can step outside the rectangle, so that we make sure that their neck is straight, or even a little bit looking outwards, because if we consistently feed for position with their head looking inwards, we are training them to, because they will follow, their body will follow where their head is pointing. So if we teach them to look to the inside, they will go to the inside, they will skip cones. Any questions?
I was going to ask, what do you do if they don't stop for the treat? I find with Kika sometimes I click and then I go to give her the treat and she's gone, and then I'm running after her saying, "Hey, stop! There's a treat," and she keeps going.
So yeah, depending, like Fionn does that sometimes. I make sure that I go back to clicking a little bit before one cone, and then be there presenting already. Because it's good to, it's not, well, it can be helpful to have like an empty click to tell your animal keep going and you're doing well. But if they don't hear the click because they are thinking like, I know what to do, and are so focused on movement that they don't hear the click, don't register the click, they can become frustrated. Where's my click? Where's my treat?
Yeah.
So make it more obvious. Maybe go back to walk. Make it obvious, be there before she arrives at the cone. Find a way to make it really obvious, like, Kika, the treat is here, stop. What you also can do is like not in the rectangle, but like away from the rectangle, walk, stop, and then click there, and then that she realized, oh, when I hear the click, I'm supposed to stop for the treat. It's a behavior that you can train in another context and then bring back into the cone. And then the moment that she's trotting and she stops, you will give her jackpot, and then end that session, give her a break, start again, or do it next day. That it's like, oh, I stopped, I get a really big jackpot for that. Because the chances are, like that happened with Fionn too, that the chances are like, yeah, it's nice for us to, enticing maybe to think, oh, well, then I don't click. But yeah, otherwise she will slow down at one point and look at you like, what's going on? And if you click then you click for slowing down, and we want movement. So we have to be realizing, what if we don't anticipate this behavior, what could happen? She would keep running, get frustrated and more frustrated and more frustrated. She could keep running, but eventually will stop, because they will stop at some points after some time, maybe 2 minutes, but maybe like 2 hours, they will stop. And if we click then we either have like a really long behavior chain, or we have clicked for stopping. So depending on how your horse or donkey interpreted that click, we get like worse off. So I think it's always important to make sure that we reinforce what we click for, and I rather fade out the clicks than the treats at first, because the click is such a good communication. I rather have you to click less and still feed, but you can also feed, but at this point I rather have you click, because if you feed there, you teach them to stop. Let me see. Can you say something? I think my thing stopped.
I don't think anyone did.
Oh, okay. I thought for a minute that that my earphones stopped working. Yeah, so any questions at this point?
I don't think I have any specific questions. I think I just it's like I'll kind of, it's like, oh, I kind of know what I need to do. I just like Vision just gets really sensitive to like increasing the distance, and I need to get better. It's like hard to, like, I know technically like, oh, I should just increase it like a little bit each time, but it's so hard to like measure. Like it's hard to like figure out like the lengths that I'm putting them apart so that I can slowly grow it, because it's hard to like tell how far apart they are each time. So I know in my head I'm like, I just need to figure out a better way to mark where I had them or something so I can slowly increase it.
Or you can do it like measure it by steps. Like, okay, if I do one big step, like how far is that approximately?
Right.
Because then you know, okay, these cones are 6 steps or 8 steps, and that makes a difference. You can also mark them by just I don't know, putting a stone in where you had them, or leaving them, if that's a possibility. I don't know if you have your own property or not.
I can't really leave them, but mostly because I think the boys would mess them up. I think they would get squished or something, but yeah, I'll try. I've thought about doing the steps, and I was like, oh, I don't trust myself. I feel like I'm going to take different sizes of steps, but you're right. I should just try doing that. That's better than nothing.
Like
even if
what I
it's
do is in the beginning, and now I can leave them, so that's really practical. But when I was boarding Kira, for instance, I just measured steps, like a big step, not too big, because some days you're more energetic and you're big, but like a little bit bigger than normal, like that, and that would be pretty even. And also write it down. Just write it down somewhere. Okay, the long side was 8 steps, the short side was 6 steps, or something, that you have like a way of measuring it. And for Rachel also, like last week, Sarah and I talked about like the trot. Some horses go from walk to trot like pretty instantly. Some horses need go gradually to make that transition. So they maybe need like 3 or 4 steps faster walk before they actually are trotting. So if that's the case, and you already mentioned that, Rachel, that you have to, like, sometimes we have to make the rectangle a little bit bigger in order to entice the horse and make it possible for the horse to offer the trot. So then you don't ask that on the short side of the rectangle, because that's probably too hard. Start asking that on the start of the long side, and you do that by just adding your click a little bit earlier than the cone, and then feed at the cone. And I made an extensive drawing last week with Sarah with cones. So you have to figure out, and then when you want to do the trot, you have to figure out at what point you click, so that you can be arrive sooner at the next cone. Any other questions regarding movement, rectangle, feeding?
I wanted to ask a question about kind of like, okay, so unfortunately, I'm worried I'm not gonna be able to like join it all next week. I'm gonna be at the airport, so I'm gonna try to like call in, but it just depends on like what's going on there, I guess. So if I can't, I can y'all listen to the recording, but as far as like ongoing, I know we're part of the like academy for like the 6 months and stuff, and I'm worried
You're
about
not
like
part
I'm
of
worried.
the academy for 6 months. You can access the course content for 6 months.
Oh, right. Oh, got it. Um, I was as far as yeah, I just am like trying to think like next steps, like what should I be focusing? I mean just increasing criteria, I know, and just like for vision though, I'll post a video this week, but I guess just I guess I wanted to call it mostly. I just might not be able to join next week, so if I can't, when I post a video, I'd love to just hear your feedback on like what I
Yeah,
should be
make
kind of
make
focusing
sure
on.
you post your videos and ask your questions. So next week, just to give a little bit of clarity, so for those who do the course and not yet signed up for the academy, the weekly Zoom calls ends. If you join the academy, that's 70 Canadian dollars a month. You get like 4 coaching calls every Sunday. Not 4 every Sunday, but every Sunday 1, so 4 months. And you stay in the Facebook group. If you don't join the academy, you don't get access to the Facebook group anymore. And but the course content will be staying up, and I will also probably rearrange the course content a little bit, but you keep access for 6 months, so you have always something to fall back on. I think I will rearrange it because now I tailor the content to the participants, but then I will rearrange it. Probably will add a few more stuff because always improving. So yeah, that's for the course. So the course ends next Sunday is the last call. So this week you still have the possibility to send in your videos. And if you join the academy, we can just keep going. And that's 70 Canadian dollars a month. And what I am planning to do in the academy, you can ask me any questions. So if you want, I will be focusing on movement for the next 14 months in the academy, because that's something that I like. I probably will do some long range and share my own personal training videos. And you can ask me anything about any behavior and anything in the academy. So we won't be staying on one topic. It's more like, yeah, what do you want to know? So that brings me to Rachel says, do you feed your horse beet pulp? Yes, I do. Alicia said needs to be non-GMO. I'm wondering what brand has that. We only have Stanley here. Yeah, I listened. Did you listen to Alicia's podcast? Rachel, is that what you're
Yeah,
referring?
I just got through listening to her podcast on the beet pulp, and she was talking about healing their gut and how, and he's got all the things that she was talking about in that podcast, not only the fat pads but the weepy eyes, the fact that he doesn't have resistance to parasites anymore. He has the chronic colic and everything because apparently his guts are just crap. And she was talking about the importance of adding beet pulp because it helps to heal their gut and create the prebiotics, but that it needed to be non-GMO.
How I heard it is that preferably, but like I have deep dived in the GMO and the non-GMO and the Monsanto and whatnot, and it's horrible because plants do what plants do. They spread seed and they have pollinators, and I don't know what how that works with the beets or whatever. But I think even if something is labeled non-GMO, it might be GMO. Um, it's the thing that we can't control. If you can find a brand, and that's all like country dependable, like and also like in the Netherlands we have shredded beet pulp. I like that because it's just dried, you know, there's no molasses in it. But here in Canada we only have beet pulp pellets. They don't put it on the package. I try to call the manufacturer and ask like how much molasses is in there. They just refuse to answer that. So there's a lot that we don't know, that we don't control. But what you can do is like what I do with, for instance, with the pellets. They are less than 10% sugar, that's for sure, because the sugar beets are used to extract sugar from. And the beet pulp is a byproduct. And then they put molasses in it to make nice pellets. So what I do to, and that's not an answer on your question, I know, but what I do to make sure that there's like even less sugar in it, I soak it, I rinse it, I soak it again, then I rinse it. That's how at least then I can control that little bit of sugar in there. That's all I can control. Well, I think shredded beet is even better because there's less sugar in it, and there's also not like all the things that they put in there to make it a pellet, to make it consistent pellet, whatever they do. So I think less. If they do less with the stuff, it's better, because if it's shredded beet, it's just dried probably. And then I don't know if it's GMO. You can find it. I do agree that that's would be the best choice. But if it's not there, I wouldn't worry too much, and go for the beet pulp that you have. For people who don't know, we are talking about Alicia Edwards. She has a course, it's called Healing Horses Their Way. She's Canadian. I like her very much. She helped me with Kira and finding some supplements that would help Kira when she had laminitis. I won't go into that because it's super individual, which each horse needs. I like her because I talked to her personally on an event where she was a speaker, and I had the chance to ask many critical questions. And so yeah, I know that she's super knowledgeable, and she does her specialty is healing horses their way, mainly with diet, but also she does also like other things. And I like her very much because if we talk about laminitis horses, I'm the one that's doing the exercises because that's where I specialized in, and she's doing mainly diets, and also a little bit of managing the horse, which I also do. So it's always, I like her very much. Any other questions?
Yet.
So I'm a little bit like, what do we talk about now then? Does anybody have other questions about like other horses or other behaviors? Like, I still have an hour, so. Oh yeah, before that, keep that question in mind. What I would like you to do for homework for this week is I will write it down. Let me write it down right now, so I won't forget to write that down. I would like you to compare or make a video, or maybe even edit a video, compare your baseline with current situation. I would like to for you to check if going around the cones is on cue. And that's also for Sarah then, if you don't know how to get like check. Like I think you can check mark that going around the cones, everybody like, yeah, check, your animal knows what to do. Does your horse do that on cue? Walk, maybe even trot. Can your horse stand still on the track? That's something else that you can like the really development of this exercise is that you can ask your horse to come into the circle, send him around the cones if you like that. If you don't do that. If you find it important to put like the walk, trot, and eventually canter on cue, start focusing on that. Personally, for Fionn, I don't mind that he doesn't really listen to trot at this point, so I keep the cones deliberately as my cues because it's for exercise, and as long as he sees the cones and he's offering trot. At this point, I'm fine with that. I do realize, especially for Fionn, that it will be very, very, very hard to change that, but nothing is impossible with positive reinforcement. I just know for Fionn, he's the one trick pony. He's like, I know what to do. I will do this and nothing else. It will be harder to listen, but I keep working on it. But to me, at this point, it's not that important. Yeah, Sarah.
Oh, I don't remember what I was gonna say. Yeah, I actually don't remember what I was gonna say, so never mind. It probably wasn't that important.
It will come back to you. Like, and in the academy, we keep, and Patricia knows this, we keep working on the key lessons. There's 6 key lessons for horses, which is table manners. Some horses need work on their table manners. Ongoing or once in a while. Table manners is safe behavior around food and treats. It's about for Bo, that Bo doesn't eat your hand. I teach techniques how to prevent that your horse is using his teeth instead of his lips only. And it's all ongoing because once in a while that pops up. That's completely normal because something else changes in their environment. I had to make a note. The second is patience, teaching your horse to align next to you and being relaxed. Patient is really a good behavior to train as a default behavior. A default behavior can become a very important communication tool. Whenever your horse gets frustrated or confused, he will fall back to default behavior, because default behavior is something that it is on cue, but it will also, the likelihood of being reinforced without the cue is very high. So if they don't know what to do, they know that one behavior I can do and I will get a treat. So for Kira, for instance, her default behavior was flamen. So they put their upper lip up and it's as if they smiled, like, and it was a default behavior because I reinforced it no matter when she used that. So if I asked her things that she said that sometimes she became conflicted, or she got frustrated, or she didn't, I raised my criteria too soon, and she didn't know what to do, she did the flamen behavior. And of course I knew, okay, I asked for trot and you do flamen, I will reinforce flamen, I will reward flamen, And I will make a mental note to make sure that I go back to where she was still successful at trot in whatever context or setup I was using. And then usually the flamen didn't happen anymore, but the flamen behavior was something that everybody else loved so much. So whenever she was doing something and she got frustrated and I got like, okay, mental note, she's doing her default behavior. It's a free behavior. It will be reinforced even without a cue. People started to reinforce her for it. How? By attention and laughing. Oh, look at her. Like if she wanted my attention, when we were talking in the barn, she would do flamen behavior and everybody, oh, look at Kira, and everybody, woo. So then I realized I really would like to have a behavior that is not so obvious for other people, that is even secret, because they don't realize that my horse is communicating something to me. So that's why I came up with like the patient behavior. It's also a part of starting your horse to stand square, which is really handy if you would like to do dressage, but it comes in it's also healthy to keep their balance evenly distributed, because some horses always stand with one leg more to the front. So that's patient. Then we have targeting, mat training. Mat training is targeting for the feet, and also then backing, which you can teach with targeting, which is convenient, and head lowering. And once you have trained these 6 behaviors as a goal, then they turn into training tools. So that's what I said in the beginning. If you use a target stick, the goal is not anymore for your horse to touch the target. Your goal with the target stick is to create a setup, an environment that your horse will offer a certain behavior that you then can reinforce. So if you keep the target stick in front of them and they move towards them and you click for the behavior, then you can create movement with targeting. You can create head lowering with targeting. You can create backing with targeting. You can create all kinds of movement with targeting. Once your horse knows targeting with the nose and the feet, you can also teach targeting like hip targeting. So you can use that for lateral gaits, shoulder in. You can teach that to move to the mounting block and so on. So once you taught your horse the key lessons, then they become training tools, and you have like more ways to explain to your horse, this is what I want. You see the target stick? Okay, yeah. And your horse comes to you, you can create a recall. So yeah, you can use all the key lesson behaviors to train other behaviors easier and faster, give your horse more clarity. And then I have 6 keys to success for trainers, which I also talked about, which are trainer skills. And I found that it's not emphasized enough to develop those skills as well. So one is the training journal that I shared in week 1. If we keep track of our training by not only keeping track in like how many sessions did we do, but also what happened, what was my learning point in week 1. Maybe it was timing, maybe it was food delivery. Like, oh, Patricia, I noticed that your food delivery in your last video was really, really smooth. Like, that really improved.
Oh, good.
So yeah, tracking with a training journal, making a training plan. What is it that you want? A training plan in my system is a vision board. Like, what is it that you want to do with your horse? And then pick one behavior, make a shaping plan. That's the 3rd key to success. The better you can make your shaping plans, the better it is. Base it all on the principles of learning and motivation. And that's what I really try to communicate in these past weeks. It's not about that we have to use 4 cones and that we have to do this. It's not about the rules like click 3 times and then raise your criteria. Raise your criteria whenever your horse is offering the behavior consistently. That's a way better way to measure when you need to change your criteria than 3 times or 5 times or 10 times. Like some horses, for Fionn, it's really hard to adjust mentally. So it's easier to train Fionn to raise the criteria pretty quickly, but make the improve it, change it only super tiny, because he's the one trick pony. He's like, no, I have to go around the cones and walk. This is what I do. It was really hard to ask him to go trot. Now I have to trot. That other criteria of walk has gone down a little bit. So now he's like, no, trot it is. So in order to train Fionn to offer new behaviors, I have to change it constantly. If I stick too long in one criteria, he gets really frustrated if I change that criteria, because he's like, but this is it. I needed to know A, B, C. And now you're telling me that there's more letters in the alphabet? No.
That's how
there's
vision
3
is
letters.
too.
Yeah. So I try to do like, if it's consistent, be very generous and then keep moving, because otherwise, like for Fionn gets stuck. Odin is totally different. I can teach Odin like 6 new behaviors and then he tells me I know 5 more. How important. But for that horse is more difficult to get really consistent behavior, because he's like, yeah, we've done like two times around that, now what, let's change it up. So for him it's more the challenge of keeping consistent behavior and duration, while for the other horse it's more like, how do we get to that goal behavior. But like, yeah, they're all different. So that's why I really focus on the principles of learning and motivation. And what is motivation? What is motivating your animal? Like some horses are only motivated by pellets or other things, and some have different things. And then we have to realize that the value of our reinforcer can change. For Kira, she loved Timothy hay cubes, dry cubes, hay cubes, nothing more, except in spring when there was that candy lush grass growing out of the ground. Then the hay cubes were meh. So in that time of year, and was every year the same thing, like in spring, I have to up my games. Grass pellets were a little bit better. Grass pellets with some sunflower seeds were better. So my own home-baked cookies with cinnamon were better. And then when the summer approached, the grass became a little bit drier and less enticing, because it's also not new anymore. Then I could switch back to Timothy cubes. So like realizing, do I still get like improvement of the behavior? Yes. Then your reinforcer is actually reinforcer. Do you get frustration? Maybe your reinforcer is too high in value and your horse is focused too much on the treat, or you don't have enough clarity. Then you go back to your shaping plan. So that's really important, and that's continuous learning for all of us. Like I still learn new things, and I keep developing my skills because I like it. I like learning, but our horses also like learning, and that's what I also really love about positive reinforcement, is that in the beginning, like the first few sessions, it's all about the treats, but later on it's also about like you recognize that they love to learn, that they love to that they know that they can influence the training, and you create that two-way communication. If they say no, you will start investigating. Then the fifth key to success for trainers is setting up accountability. And accountability is responsibility to accomplish your goals. So in a course like this, okay, it's relatively easy, because you get homework, you get structure, you get weekly check-ins. So that's one form of external accountability. I'm going to ask, like, how did it go? And that can be your motivator to do something today. You can also have like an internal accountability, that you have like a strong internal motivation. And for most people, it's a mix, and it also depends. For Kira, like, I had no internal accountability system for Kira to start movement training, because I didn't know how to accomplish that with positive reinforcement. So I did that. I worked on it. I didn't really get the results. Something else happened. I was distracted. Okay, let's do it. But when she got laminitis, when she was diagnosed with equine metabolic syndrome, I really felt that I was standing with my back against the wall. Now I have to do something. The options were traditional, falling back on negative reinforcement and maybe even punishment, like, you have to go, or figuring it out. I decided, I don't know how, I will figure it out. And that's what I did. So I had a really strong internal accountability, and I also had external accountability in the form of a very, very, very supportive husband, that even when it was pouring rain, which it does in Vancouver, go to your horse. You will feel better if you have exercised her, because she still needs that on a daily basis at this point. So having external accountability to keep you going, that is really a key to success. And if you're not, like, most people are not aware of that, they need that. And having like set up an external accountability in the form of a group with like-minded people, that is really supportive. And then the last key to success is emotions in training. And that's not only your own emotions, but also recognizing what's going on with our horses. Like, if they're super frustrated and we don't recognize that, we can create really dangerous situations and unpleasant way of learning. But if we can recognize, okay, my horse is relaxed now, my horse enjoys this, so then I can use this to make my horse enjoy training more. Or if your horse gets angry or frustrated, and it can also be because there's another horse. Like, sometimes I get aggression in Fionn when I do his at liberty rectangle exercise. If the rectangle is placed too close to my round pen where I lock up Odin, because then Fionn is running past and he's like, you go away. So then I know, okay, I have to change the setup in order to get that frustration down, because that frustration might be directed to me at one point if I raise that frustration until it becomes aggression, for instance, because they still have food aggression. They were really bad when I got them. So all things like, what can we do to recognize desired behaviors, emotions and undesired emotions. There's not good or bad emotions. All emotions, we have all emotions. The horses have all emotions. But what I like to point out is what emotions are desirable in learning. A little bit frustration can help learning, but too much can inhibit learning. Too much can lead to aggression, which can lead to dangerous situations. So the moment that we become aware of the emotions, and also that we become aware of our own emotions, when do we get frustrated? Oh, my horse is not doing it. Oh, he's not getting it. What can we do? Like, for me personally, when I feel that, when I'm raising my criteria, when I'm lumping, And I recognize that I'm getting frustrated in training. I realize, okay, I have to take a break. I have to do some deep breath, relax, and then either quit for the day, no matter what the result was, give my horse a treat, like, okay, end of training, or calm myself down so that I can be in a thinking mode again, and then realize, okay, I raised my criteria. It was just not fair to expect this, and then move on. So yeah, that's what and that's also in the course, but for the at Liberty Rectangle, food manners, table manners, and targeting were those key lessons that we needed the most. And according what we want to do, if you want to teach a woe, you can use a mat, for instance, and use mat training. Any
Yeah, I'm
questions?
still on the mat training. I'm just I'm still trying to get her to stay there when I walk a tiny ½ inch away.
I think you should start with clicking when you are moving, because they're very reactive to movement. Like, okay, she's moving, I have to move with you. So you really have to desensitize her for you moving. And it can be starting with a weight shift. The moment you can even click for standing, then you move and then you feed the treat, because the click and the feeding is a reinforcing moment. So if that's the smallest where you have to start, that you stand completely still and Kika stands still, then you click and then you do a little movement or pretend you're doing a step, and if she steps forward, you feed for position, that you go back, and you repeat that. So she will think like, I can step forward, but the treat will be feeding like a little bit backwards. So I will anticipate where the treat will be. So you know what, I'll just leave that out and I won't move. And the moment she does that, you give a jackpot and repeat.
Yeah. And another thing I wanted to ask you about the rectangle was, is it a good idea, because of to sometimes just do the walk round, so that it's like you don't always have to trot, because
Yeah.
as you said, if we get to the trot, then they're likely to offer just the trot. So maybe not do the trot for one session at all, just walk. Yeah.
And this is where cues basically come in really handy. So you just do one session, just click treat for walk, 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 walk. Then she probably doesn't offer trot anymore. But like, this is really where cues are important, because then you can give your animal already information. Okay, I say trot. That means that the likelihood for that behavior to be reinforced because you cued it is really, really high. And then they start paying attention to your cues, and then they are not guessing.
Yeah, because the thing to do, isn't it, is not to say trot while they're still walking, because then the trot cue is still for the walk, isn't it?
That's in the beginning. I always advise, get the behavior strong and consistent first, then add a cue on top, and then really practice. Like, okay, your animal's trotting, you say trot, click treat. Your animal's trotting, say trot, click treat. Now, and you can manipulate the environment to entice for a trot. So the moment you see Kika is walking a little bit more faster towards the next cone because she's anticipating on a treat, for instance, then you can click that faster movement, because that, even if it's a little bit faster for them, it's so clear because they feel that they go faster because they decided to go faster. And then, so then you bring your cue a little bit first in time. So then until you have your animals walking and you say trot and your animal trots, of course that is a big jackpot, especially in the beginning. And then your animal thinks like, oh, when she makes that weird sound, I better trot and see what's happening. Oh, I can predict when I get a treat. And then later on, you go into an intermittent reinforcement schedule for listening to that trot cue. But if you make it really 100%, they start anticipating, because our horses or animals, donkeys, are already guessing what the right answer will be. So, and if we are not aware, they pick something that we don't realize only after we get in trouble. Like, I taught my first pony to do Spanish walk, and I did not know how to put it on cue. But then one day I stood in front of him, and he had picked that as a cue to do Spanish walk. I'm like, fabulous. So I tried it out immediately. I stood in front of him, this leg, that leg, perfect. And then I realized, because I was looking for how can I teach him a cue. And I'm like, when I'm standing in front of him, he does this. Oh, that's amazing. So that will become my cue. Until a few days later, or a week later, the farrier was there. He was tied up. The farrier walked in front of him. And he was like, somebody in front of me, I better do my Spanish walk for a treat. In that moment, I realized that I had like a big mistake. I had picked a cue, or my horse has picked a cue that was not a safe cue. And he was very vigorous about it. He was very enthusiastic because he wanted to treat it. Like, I didn't really recognize that as maybe frustration. I was like, oh, I'm getting more behavior. So yeah, that was like, yeah. And then I realized, oh, this takes a little bit longer to put that behavior on a cue that I pick, because they are, and I don't know why he picked me standing in front of him. I don't know.
Yeah.
So that is one of the things that happens often in at liberty movement training. The animals are so used that we moving is the cue.
Yeah.
And that goes so well in the beginning, but if we really want our horses to trot, and especially if they want us close by, and you see that in the when people use the reverse round pen, that they start trotting with a target stick, but I never see them trot for 5 minutes because it's hard. So that's when I'm realizing, like, the reverse round pen is really, really good. It's a really good exercise, but I do think that people need to step up and take it to the next level. And then, because it's a circle, there's not really a distinctive point where they could get a treat. You can teach that, but it's a little bit harder. So that's also an advantage of the rectangle. And you have the long lines, which makes it easier than a circle.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think you did so well, because, like, I was thinking this morning, like, the baseline videos of everyone, and like for you, Patricia, you were in the academy, like the Kika being glued to you, and now she's doing her little trot.
But she's still a bit like that though. Away from doing the rectangle, she's still a bit. It's not so much glue. She kind of herds me. She has to be very close, especially if Dolly's around. Then it's, you know, my person. But I think I think the more I can do the going around the cones and stuff, and she's away from me, the better it is, isn't it? So that although she gets bored very quickly, I find she does a couple of 2-3 rounds, and then she'll go, no, I don't want to do that anymore. And then we go around the other way. She goes, well, I've done that. It's a bit like you said about Odin. You think, well, no, what do we do next? So I have to do very short sessions, I think, so she doesn't get frustrated and cross, because she gets cross, kicks out at me sometimes, cross. Like, you know, stop doing that. I don't want to do that anymore. No.
And then what you say about like that she's kind of hurting you, this is so important. First of all, that you recognize that. So yay, you. Also to recognize that in what situations this happens when Dolly is around. Dolly is her other donkey. It's really important. And when we take the key to success of principles of learning and motivation, what is motivating Kika to keep doing that in other situations outside the reverse rectangle? That is because whenever she's hurting you, or I think she blocks you sometimes.
Does, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah. She does it more when we're in the arena actually than when we're actually, in the paddocks or something. So
That's also a good realization to make sure, like in what situations does this happen? Because if we don't respond with an alternative response, she will keep doing it because something that you are doing now is reinforcing this behavior, is keeping this behavior in the repertoire. So sometimes reinforcing opposite behaviors is a start. For instance, if she walks with you and you notice that she's trying to start to block you, you have to be quicker. Make a mental note, next time we don't do that anymore. And then when she walks still at like next to you in the same direction, not blocking you, you can start reinforcing that. You can start reinforcing her looking to the outside, because if she looks to the outside, her body will follow. It's incompatible with blocking you off. You can use, and here comes key lesson targeting. You can use a target stick to teach her to keep either her neck straight, because neck towards you will mean she's going to block you. So either neck straight or even exaggerating, like looking to the outside for now, and then reinforce that behavior. Because if she gets reinforced with something else that she finds reinforcing, there's no need to block you anymore. And it's not that like this is a natural behavior, so it's not that she will never do it, but you can teach her an alternative behavior that is also reinforced with something that she wants to have. And if it's attention, you can even use scratches.
yeah, I mean, I find it much easier when I have the target stick and I go in with it, and I can then divert her, as you said, with her head away, and we walk along with, then I can stop all that.
And once she knows that, you can fade out the target stick, and then the moment that she looks, even if the first time that she looks away from you because there's a bird flying up or whatever, or dog barks, you can really click that and reinforce it so you capture that behavior without the target stick, so that she will get the idea, like, okay, walking like in the same direction as Patricia is reinforced, and if I look to the outside, that's also reinforced. So
Yeah.
then you create more alternatives, and there will be a day that she's like, no, because maybe she sees a danger that you don't see, and then she blocks you, like, no, go this way. Or
Yeah.
is she blocking you off from Dolly?
Not particularly, well, not always, no. I mean, yes, she is. But actually, funnily enough, as they've become more bonded, she's not quite so, Dolly's allowed, but she does tend to block me. But I just, what I have been doing also is when she does that, gets towards me like that, I tend to just leave the arena. I just climb over the fence and say, right, that's it, no more, that's it, and I go. But I don't know whether that's good or bad, really.
Depending on what she wants. If she wants you out of there, you just reinforcing that behavior. If she wants you in there, you just punish that behavior by negative punishment, by taking away something she wants, trainer. So even though it's the same behavior, it's all about the experience of the learner.
I mean, she's better than she was, so I think we're slowly getting there.
I think you're building on that two-way communication, And what I also liked is that that you said there's less aggressive, or the aggressive behavior stopped by going towards the rectangle.
Yeah. No, she likes doing that for a bit. As I say, she just speeds around. It's quite funny with her ears flat back, so I'm not sure she's really enjoying it, but that's it.
Sometimes it can also be like that she's concentrated on what to do. It like ears back, it's a bit out of context to say ears back means this, because it's also
Especially with donkeys, because their ears back quite a lot. It doesn't mean necessarily anything nasty.
yeah. So you have to take into consideration what the rest of her face is doing, what her tail is doing, how high her head is, and it can also like external circumstances. For instance, like I lived in Vancouver where it's rainy, and it's Delta where I had my Kira board. It was also windy. So when it was rainy and windy, when she has to go against the wind, well, her ears were flat. She didn't want to do it. But yeah, that's because pure external circumstances. It's the rain, it's the wind. Yeah. So it's all, yeah. Behavior is never one thing, and one body part is it's all contextual. What happened before it happened, and so on. So yeah. Any other questions, since I'm on a roll here, and if you don't have anything special for
No, I think I'm done for now. Thank you.
okay, how about you, Sarah? Any questions popped up maybe for your
Nothing
other
too
horse?
specific. I think my other horse, I haven't been doing it a ton with him because I've been trying to focus on vision, but he does really like doing it. So I have done it a little with him, so I'm excited to like do that more with him because I think he really likes it. But and it's funny, he's just so much easier to do it with because he likes to move, so he enjoys it. Yeah, I think honestly, like when as you know, the key lessons for trainers, like the emotions and stuff, and I struggle a lot with vision. I think just with, I mean, I've trained multiple Mustangs, and I've worked with a lot of different horses, but I've never worked with a horse that has so much like that is so his like fear response, I guess, is just so high. And I think it's really genetic. Like he's really a horse that he should never have been taken out of the wild. He would have done great in the wild, but unfortunately he got rounded up, and he's just not maybe built for the human world. He just is really, everything is just so hard for him, and he's so like his self-preservation instincts are just higher. I mean, like my Mustang that passed away, he was afraid, like he was a scaredy boy, but not like this at all. I mean, it's just every little thing is so his self-preservation is so high, and
Is he in a
it makes
constant
it
fear response and flight response?
no,
would you say?
not constant, like, but still, I mean, it's just like every little thing that's new for him, or that's not totally like it's just human stuff is scary for him. And he was rounded up obviously from the wild, and then he was also then he was neglected for a year, and then he was sent through a low-end auction, and then he was passed around a lot, and he had a lot of really bad experiences. And on top of that, I think he's just genetically a more, like I said, I think his self-preservation instincts are just higher than Max, my other horse. He has almost no self-preservation. He's like, I'll do anything, I don't care. And so I struggle a lot because I just feel like, ideally, honestly, he would probably be in like a sanctuary for Mustangs. I think that would be his ideal. He loves people, he loves me, and he loves getting attention and stuff, but he just gets so scared of things. And so it makes it really hard to move forward. So that's the thing I struggle with him the most with. And so I think like it's stuff like this is so fun. I think going back to the lessons for trainers, I get discouraged easily with him, I think, because I can be like, sure, we're like making some progress with this or something, but it's like, but he still can't even be let outside of his pen because like he's so scared of this and that, like every little thing is just so scary for him. And so I get discouraged easily, I think, because I feel like it feels like no matter how much I do, because I, obviously worked with him a lot, and he can do obviously more than he used to, and he's getting better, but it's just so slow and it feels like so little that it sometimes feels like not enough. Like it feels like I can't ever do enough with him to get him to a place where he can be. And I've also kind of accepted like maybe he may never be able to be a really domestic horse. He may never be a very like super. He's never going to be just some easy like I'll go with whatever. He's never going to be that horse, because
I
that's
think
just not him.
there's
But
like different, like so many different approaches that you can take, and even if you do all of that a little bit could help. First of all, like what I hear you say is that probably your own expectations to compare him with a domestic horse and all the other horses that you've trained, like if you lower that expectation for him, that would help. Also realizing what, because I heard you say that too, like he has come a long way.
yeah, but it's
And
hard because his long way. Like Max is a Mustang too. They both are rounded up around the same time. Yeah, and my other horse was a Mustang. The
how long
Vision's
did
coming a
you
long way.
have him?
Like well, I owned him for so I rescued them, and then but he went to live with someone else for a year. So I had him for a little bit, then he lived with someone else for a year, but then I got him back because they weren't training him well, so I got him back. And so I've had him for like a year and a few months.
That's short.
Yeah.
That's
It's just
that's
hard because
really
he just
short.
can't even be led. He can't get other people can barely, it's just so hard. I just get discouraged, I guess.
Well, what I would suggest then is like making a training plan, which is a vision board. I totally can help you like one-on-one coaching or in
Yeah.
the academy, because it's so much fun to hear about see how other people do that, and then take that and see how can I apply that to my situation. Like for him,
Yeah.
I would make a vision board. Like what are all the behaviors that you think he needs in order to have a less stressful life?
Yeah.
Leading is one of them. If you cannot lead him now and you need to lead him, how can you do that? I would immediately say key lesson, targeting, follow a target, and mat training, because then you know that you at least can move him for whatever. And like going around outside his pen, if that's stressful, we can make a shaping plan for that, but also writing things down. And like for you, I would suggest like this week, make a list of all the things that he couldn't do, what he can
Yeah.
do now, because this is, I think it's human.
Yeah.
That you, whenever you go there, you replay, you raise your own criteria. So it's like going towards the horizon. You will never, if that's your goal, you will never arrive. And if,
Yeah.
first of all, if you realize that you're moving targets, like no, go back. The moment I can put him, take him outside his pen, even if it's for 1 second, it's worth a celebration. It's really
Right.
worth a celebration. That's also part of like how do we learn? Like we have to celebrate, because once you can take him out of his pen when he's relaxed, even if it's for 1 second, you know there's more possibilities open for him. So that, like, writing down your goals, so they are fixed, and then maybe set another goal, but not say like, yeah, well, he can go around he can go outside his pen now, but I can't take him anywhere. And then say like, yeah, I can take him to that other pen, but I can still not take him there. That can really be demotivating. While if you said like, okay, I cannot take him around outside his pen, now I can for 1 second. So the next goal is not, it's the first goal that we move. No, it's the next goal is 2 minutes staying relaxed. Then it's 2 minutes and 1 step away from the fence. And like, if you have a way to not only make a shaping plan for him, but also for yourself, like what is important. So there's techniques to do that, and also realizing it's not just a wild horse, it's a traumatized wild
Yeah, that's
horse.
what partly makes it so hard, because honestly, my biggest number one struggle with him is that he got a really ingrained bolt and like flee response, to where like I worked on him with that so much to where it's like better. But even now, like that's why I don't try to walk. I barely ever lead him, because the person who owned him for a year, they just would try to like use like it was like they just made it so much worse. And so yeah, it's like the traumatization I think makes it so much worse, because it's his bolt response that makes it so feel like impossible. I feel like just makes, sometimes I just feel like, oh, it's impossible. I'm never gonna really be able to do it. I was like, I'm just gonna have to try to like, you know, I don't know, it just feels impossible. But you're right. I need to try to
But the
be,
more you do with positive reinforcement, and the more you create that two-way language, then the thing is, if they want to bolt, they will tell you, I don't like
right.
this. And the moment that anybody would say, I'm not listening to you, we will do it, then you will create that bolting behavior.
Right.
But if you could say like, oh, you don't want to do this? Let's stop. What's going on? What is making you
Yeah,
so
that's what I've been trying
fearful?
to do with him. And
What
so you're right. I
triggers
should high
you?
five myself. Yeah, because
Yeah.
he used to be, he didn't even have a pause first. He would just, it was like immediate. It was just, I'm scared, I'm bolting. I'm scared, I'm bolting. Immediate. And now there is more of that pause. So you're right. We are making progress. It just is hard when it feels like the wins feel so little. It's like, oh, that feels like not enough. But you're
But
right. I should.
having, like, to me, that you are saying that he has this pause is really, really hopeful, because now you
Yeah.
can work with something. If you have done like so many things and he can still explode out of nothing, because this is what horses like, if they are just normal horses, like, and even though they have a really high self-preservation, normal horses communicate, and sometimes they communicate quickly. I'm scared, I'm gone. But some horses have learned that humans don't listen, especially traumatized
Yeah.
horses. Either they can make their signals bigger, like biting, stop, I don't want to go there, I bite, I kick, whatever. Or some horses internalize that and they don't give signals anymore because people don't listen. So they don't flick their ear, they're just gone.
That's what
And
he used to do. But you're right. We're fine. I should give myself a high five that at least my work has made it so now he will usually at least pause for a second. Like that's
And
good.
I
That's
think
better.
that step that you say that he now pauses before he bolts off or runs, that is huge, because without
Yeah.
that step, you cannot do the rest.
Yeah.
So and you can feel like, yeah, it's nothing in comparison with other horses, but it is huge in comparison to his history.
Yeah, you're right.
And that's being in a group like this is so important. And I don't know if you are in a surrounding, but sometimes if we are in an environment with traditional people, they can also have remarks that
Yeah.
really, really deeply hurt us, because we are vulnerable, because we are doing literally the best we can. And if somebody makes a snarky remark, like it's not good enough, not fast enough, whatever, we take that in because we're so vulnerable at that moment. And it's also good to realize, like, surround yourself with supportive people, because it's so important. Like, I've had like remarks, well, usually I let them slide, but I've also remarked Kira was out of the wild. She was super fearful. She just was so fearful. She was in a box, in a stall. The moment I hold the door, she was trying to jump over the wall. Well, the walls of stall boxes are 2 meters and 40 centimeters or something, like, I don't know, 6 feet, 7 feet tall. And she was a tiny, she was like 12 hands or something. She was tiny. She was just trying to crawl out a wall, so afraid. Like
Yeah.
the farmer, he looked at me, he thought, he didn't say anything, but he was like, he told me later. The day he told me was, we were standing, it was a group, like boarding facility, all the other girls, like I was like in my late 30s. The other girls were like end 20s, and they had like riding horses, and they were riding and they were doing trail rides, yada yada yada, and they couldn't catch their horses because they're very traditional. They couldn't like doing anything. So we were standing, we just put all the horses back into the field, in a new field. The farmer was there because he was pointing out what field, and they were complaining like, my horse is so hard to catch, yada yada yada. And I don't know what I said. I said something because I wanted to help, so I was giving probably unsolicited advice. I sometimes do that. And they made that smart, snarky remark like, yeah, but for you it's easy, Sandra, because your horse is so easy. Wild horse, 3 months ago, wild horse. So the farmer, he was standing there leaning on, he said, this is what he said, but she was not easy. That's all he said. Everybody was quiet because they realized, yes, this was that wild horse that nobody could approach. And she's the one coming to me, and your horses are still running away from you if they see a halter. She was
Yeah.
not easy. It's like so easy to point out what somebody else is doing wrong or how easy it is. And it's not easy. And you are doing a good job. Like teaching your horse to pause is so important because it keeps everybody safe. Because in that moment of the pause, you can teach now your horse a different response. And by listening and saying, hey, you're afraid, you have high self-preservation, let's go back to where you feel safe. If you do that consistently, he will get braver and braver.
Yeah. That's true.
And
Yeah,
keep
thanks. I know that
track.
was kind of yeah, I know, and I know that was off topic a little from his, it just something I think it came up because I was thinking like, sure, I've been practicing some movement stuff with him, but like he won't even let the farrier touch him, or it's like just what am I even doing? So, but I know
But
that
this
it
is,
all works together. It's all like
it all works together because now you have trained them in movement now, and you, in this like past weeks, you created again that two-way communication. Oh, he doesn't want to move, I changed the environment, now you can move. Or you don't understand it, I'm manipulating the environment rather than I'm manipulating you to give me the right answer. No, you are
yeah,
setting him up for success. And even though you train a completely different behavior, it makes an impact on their mental state. If they realize that they have choices, the moment that you are working on leg lifting for the farrier, he will recognize that he will have a, first maybe he has a trauma in this specific behavior, because
yeah,
I know what some people do and how they do it,
yeah,
unfortunately. So, but when he feels, if you can tell him every time, express your no's, express your yeses, express your no's, I will listen, they will experience that you're listening, which will create confidence in you and trust.
yeah, yeah. You're right. You're right.
Feeling better?
Yeah, and I think I just need to like I know that sometimes it just feels like overwhelming. I think 'cause it's like, oh, there's just so much. I don't know if I can do it all with it, but it's like worst comes to worst, and he could never do anything more than he can right now. Like I'd figure it out, you know. Like we could figure it out. At least he's in a safe place for like, you know what I mean. So
And you're amazed, like Kira was so hurt bound, like, and I made big mistakes. I'm like, okay, you're a wild horse, you're hurt bound. So when I could hold her and lead her off the premises, I put her in a big field with other horses because the field was big. And I thought, all the other horses because they come at night in the stable. And it was a big field. That's what I would do with a domesticated horse. Well, every horse was like, now I can finally see you from up close. So they all gathered around her, and it frightened her because they all touched her. Can you imagine being in a room and everybody standing around you, touch, who are you? Who are you? So she was freaking out. She couldn't jump. She's not a jumper, never was. So she jumped over the ditch with water because that's what we have in the Netherlands. Well, she missed, so she jumped into the mud. She ran out, crawled out, she ran away, like totally panicked. Fortunately, we could prevent her from running on the road into the village because that well trained she wasn't. So we had to kind of chase her, corner her, put her in a stall. It was horrible. Like,
yeah,
That's how I know Vision has had so many things like that happen before I got him, and then like it was just it was like, and then there've obviously been things that I messed up or times that I've been like, when you get so frustrated, overwhelmed, and it's like, no, you have to do this because if you don't do this, then you're not going to be able to, like, it's for your well-being. We have to do this. And then I push too far, and then he gets really scared. And then, so I've definitely made mistakes, but moving forward.
But every horse is different, and I do believe that we pick always the animals that we learn from, because otherwise they would be super boring to me. It would be like, can you imagine having a horse that is like IE and is like a robot? They trot, they do trot. You say something like, to me, that would, if they wouldn't have like a personality, if they would be obey me like a soldier in the army, I wouldn't like that. I want feedback. I want to hear, do you like it? Don't you like it? How can I make it better? That's what I enjoy so much about living beings and training animals and horses, and to hear like, how do you feel about it? And can I change your feelings if they are like not positive? Can I change your fear into confidence? That's it's my personal challenge. Yeah, and Rachel says it's normal to feel discouraged. I've had mine a year ago. We have had huge high and lows, and it can be an emotional roller coaster. Yes, it can. We all know that. But it's also good to realize that we are not the only one. Sometimes I'm so supported by hearing like, okay, I'm not the only one that makes mistakes, like putting a young horse into a group with strangers, and then hopefully they go grazing, because I was so focused on, I want to give her freedom, forage and friends. Well, I didn't realize it weren't friends, and it wasn't freedom to be put in, because she was a wild horse, the only horses she knew. And then like she was stabled next to another horse that was stabled. It was a big Dutch warm blood. It was a gelding, and they befriended each other. So then the farmer was also very accommodating. So then he said, like, why don't you put Kira with this big horse? There was also a young horse. It was also 2 only, or just 3 maybe. So we put that big, huge gelding and Kira together, and he was like a father to her. He was adopting her. And then we put those like that Dutch warm blood was from a breeder who didn't live in the area. So he had all young horses that they put together, and then there was like the boarding facility people. And then he decided to put that warm blood into the field with the boarding facility. And then Kira and that big warm blood stayed together, and he sheltered her off from the rest. So that was like how I slowly could introduce them together. First they were together in a little pasture next to that pasture. So that's but I needed everybody to be on board and help think of solutions. Yeah, I didn't come up with that all by myself. So yeah, that helped, and open to change. Like, okay, the feedback of the horses, I can't do this. Find the next step. Find the next step, because it's not all clear. The more experience you have, the more you can see a little bit further into the mist, but it's still like you don't know what. It's not guaranteed. And the only thing that we can do is make it better today. More communication, more feedback, but the horses will know, the animals know that you are listening to their feedback. They know, and that's where they start trusting us, because they know, oh, you're the one that's listening.
Sorry, I derailed our conversation.
No. I asked like if there is anything outside, and nobody else had something. So you're totally, and I think it's an interesting conversation. I find it interesting because the more you hear people talk, it also gives you always ideas for your own situation. So yeah, no worries about that. We have 8 more minutes, so if somebody else has some question or remark.
Just if I can't join next week, it's good to be in the group with you guys. If I'm not on next week.
Yeah, you can all ask all your questions still in the group this week, and send in videos. More than one is okay, but keep them under 3 minutes. That's it. And so the homework is compare your baseline with the current situation, just to realize how much you've all accomplished. Like for Rachel, like the frustration that I see from Bo in the videos has decreased. Correct me if I'm wrong, Rachel, but that's what I've noticed.
No, he's definitely doing a lot better. Yeah.
And like things like feeding him on the ground, and those are so important. And it's so good that you realize, like, when I feed him from the ground, that decreases his frustration level, and that will help me. It's all those things. And if we make note of that, even if it's a mental note, but better is writing it down, we realize that, because now we have a tool for the next horse that gets over-aroused in training. Okay, maybe this tool doesn't work for that horse, but at least we know that there's always something that we can do, and that's very encouraging to know. Other things that we can do this week is paying attention to cues, what is on cue and what cue is the cue. I think we all nailed it, like pointing to the cues, to the cones, like all horses and donkeys, all of them go around the cones. I think that's absolutely on solid cue. So now, and we didn't really work on that, but just putting cues on walk and trot in this specific context will help you take this at Liberty movement training to your next level. So we'll see you next week, same Pacific time. I won't say same time, but same Pacific time, 9 a.m. Pacific time. And then, yeah, send in your videos. If you have questions, I'll be on top of it in the group, because this is the last week. And if you want to know what to do, how to become part of the academy, let me know. You can do 1 year for $700. Then it's a 1 year of support. You get basically 2 months free, or you can pay per month, whatever you like best.
I do recommend it. I really do.
Thank you, Patricia. Patricia's has been a member for so many years, and it's yeah, she always
Great.
has good questions. So yeah, come and join us.
Awesome. Well, thanks. I have to hop off, but thank you, Sandra, and thanks, Rachel and Patricia.
Right.
Okay.
Nice. Good luck.
If I don't
Bye,
speak
guys.
to you anymore, have a good trip, Sarah.
Thank you. Hopefully I'll see you guys next week.
Okay. Bye bye. Happy horse training, everybody.
See you next week. Bye.
See you next week. Bye.